Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass podcast. This for UFC Vegas 97 week off. Back into the mix. Producer Jared is on the sticks. Cody Safdie is on the line. We're talking about, there's this week's card and there's next week's card. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world of sports. You got NFL football season starting up and all of that. I was like, Jared was asking me before he came in. He's like, how's this card? I'm like, yeah, for an Apex card, not so bad. Like, maybe that means like the stakes have been lowered. I'm like, and then next week is the Sphere, which is it's a solid pay-per-view with a lot of intriguing fights. And Cody, I had to tell him to save it for the show because he went off on some sort of just crazy diatribe. So the floor is yours, Cody. You can talk all the smack you want about UFC 306, UFC Noche.
Yeah, I wasn't like talking smack. We were just having a casual conversation. You were saying how, there's a pay-per-view next weekend and it looks really good. And I was like, no, man, I got some gripes with this pay-per-view. First of all, Dana goes on this whole, no one's ever done it. No one will ever do it. And no one is ever going to go back there and do it. And we spent $20 million and it's a love letter to the Mexican people. Every press conference, UFC and Power Slap, he just can't shut up about it, how great of a card it is, and no one's ever going to do it. The NHL draft goes there, and they ask him about that. They're like, oh, did you see the draft? What did you think? He's like, that's going to look like kids playing with crayons. So now there's this expectation. And Paul, we went to CSM, we went to the same college. The professors there would be like, don't start off a story with, this is a great story, because now there's an expectation that it's actually going to be a great story. Now, every story that you deliver after starting it with, this is a great story, is going to feel mid, because it probably wasn't that great. That's how he did this card. It's going to be the greatest card. He treats it like it's UFC 300. He talks about it like it's the greatest thing. And then this is what he delivers. And yeah, Sean O'Malley versus Marotte, give me that all day long. Everybody loves that. And that's what saves this card, is that you can't really say it's a terrible card when it's got one of the hotly anticipated fights, one of the greatest fights, one of the most, just a fight that people are getting excited for. So it's got a killer main event. But as we talked about, Marotte suffers a cut. Marotte suffers potentially staph infection. Fights do get canceled. What does this card look like if it loses this fight? Oh, bad. Oh, bad. We got a co-main event between Alexa Grasso and Valentina Shevchenko. Nobody cares. I don't know if you're sitting at home right now thinking to yourself, well, Cody, well, I care. No, you don't. No, you don't. Nobody cares about seeing this thing again. But fair enough. They're two high-level fighters. We'd like to see them fight. But you're going to pay all this money? This is the greatest co-main event you've seen? No one's ever going to do it bigger here. Yeah, okay, man. And then what? Ronaldo Rodriguez versus Ode Osborne? This is on the pay-per-view?
There's no way that's on the pay-per-view.
Oh, man. No, it is, because they advertised last week's card. They were like, hey, check it out. The Sphere's coming up. And they showed the main card, and it was still, at least in terms of the broadcast, it was still on there. Now, Tapology will tell you it's right under the co-main event. Yes, it was the curtain jerker in terms of what they released for their graphic pack, but okay. They still had it on the main card, which is just crazy to me. Ortega versus Lopez, great fight.
Banger.
I mean, you got an Ortega. Yeah, everybody loves that fight. And it's going to be entertaining and it's high level and this and that. I get that part. But again, you got an Ortega that's coming off a wonky sickness, and he's been off a while, and he's had some injuries. And even though it's still a great matchup, and I think it's a great co-main event on this card, I think it lost like a little bit of luster. And then what's the rest of the card? Daniel Zellhuber, Esteban Ribovics. Again, that's a main card fight. You're paying for that, a main card. And then the prelims are really dope on the dirty prelims, like Raul Rosa versus Richie Lang, or Edgar Chavez versus Joshua Vey. And those are the first two fights. The rest of it, I don't really care for. So I'm not saying this is a bad card, because we sit here and we break down crappy Apex cards every week and talk about how these are pretty good. I'm just saying the UFC has a regular ass fight night in Abu Dhabi. It's loaded. This is the greatest love letter to Mexican fighters. And it's like a super suspect mid-level pay-per-view with a great headliner. Now imagine this card without that one fight. Someone gets hurt, pulls out. Then what does it look like? It looks like, I can't say illegal streaming websites for you because I'm going to get myself in trouble, but it's not the kind of thing you're going to pay your money for. So yeah, I don't know. That's that card. We'll talk about that when the time comes. We've got a 13 fight offering this week to get through.
We do. I just have a little bit of housekeeping. Pat wants to get some people into this contest he's running right now at Underdog. You got a deposit bonus up to $1,000 if you're making a new account, and then there's like a season-long contest. I think you have to play like 180 plays. So like, make sure that you're like invested or whatever. Like it's gonna be it's quite a lot of plays. There's 18 weeks of the NFL season, so it's 10 plays on the NFL every single week. I think you can go as low as $1, but and then there's like $25,000 to be spread out. If you're going to be betting on underdog props anyways, it'd be like kind of like an extra little bonus that if you're playing enough volume could work out. So the info for all that is in the description there. Let's get into the main event. We've got Sean Brady taking on Gilbert Durden Burns. Sean Brady is a minus 175 favorite. Burns can be had for plus 150. You know, Cody, I feel like I've been a bit of a Gilbert Burns apologist, and he burned me. Pun intended, kind of intended. So bad last time out against Madalena. It's like the path to victory was there. You know, the takedowns were there. The cardio just didn't hold up. And we've talked about this guy and his grappling skills, his grappling abilities so many years. But what I am starting to see, and maybe it's him starting to look at what's after fighting for me. I know he's doing like podcasts and focusing on these types of things. He looks like a guy who fell in love with his hands a little bit, probably doesn't do as much grappling anymore. And frankly, it seems like he's losing that edge in his game. I've never been a Sean Brady guy by any stretch of the imagination. And frankly, like, I don't know if I really want to pull the trigger on Sean Brady at minus 175. But man, what happened in round 3 there against Jack Della is a really bad look, and it wasn't even that long ago. So, gun to my head, if you forced me to bet on this main event, I think I'm ever so slightly still laying. 5 rounds kind of changes things too.
It does.
5 rounds, frankly, if this was a 3-round fight at this number, I would probably lean towards Burns. 5 rounds, the fact that Burns has shown an inability to grapple for extended periods of time. If you just hang out in his guard, he doesn't seem to have any dangerous, doesn't seem to have too many like dangerous attacks from that position anymore. He's not really sweeping, reversing. It could get a little bit dicey on the feet for sure. Sean Brady, I think that's the one part of his game that's, he's got to fill in a lot. But, we saw Burns get taken down by like Bilal like 9 times. Like the path's right there for the taking. Sean Brady is the pick for me. I mean, I kind of hate it. You know me. I hate chalk, but I think just Burns is kind of heading in another direction. It feels kind of trappy to bet Gilbert Burns at this stage in his career. What's your take here?
Yeah, so I agree with a lot of your points. Burns is 38 years old now. He's got a head coaching. He's not the head coach. I mean, obviously, Henry Hoop is still the head coach over there, but he is taking a very prominent role. He's cornering these guys. He's walking these guys out. He's traveling all over the stateside. Yeah, I would say Gilbert Burns is maybe looking at a career afterwards. It's that these guys to me are both kind of, I wouldn't say 50-50, it's just they're inconsistent. Them at their best, they have all these skills. Them at their worst, they're lacking a lot of stuff. And I'm having a hard time finding out who's going to be consistent on the day of the fight. So again, to talk about Burns, you mentioned that the guy slowed down big time against Jack Madalena. So that's very fair. And it's odd to me because one fight prior against, he fights Bilal Muhammad. He did not give up 9 takedowns. He gave up no takedowns. No, all good. The thing is, he went 5 rounds with Bilal, and Bilal pushes a hell of a pace, and he got beat, but he somewhat kept pace in some of those rounds. He showed a good account of himself, and he went 5 full rounds. The very next fight, he's up 2-0 against Jack Madalena on 2 of the judges' scorecards. He just needs to coast in the 3rd, and he can't even do that. He's gassed out. So is his cardio a problem? Generally throughout his career, yes, it has been a problem. But there are these small instances, like him versus Tyron Woodley, where he wrecked him for 5 rounds, or him versus Bilal, where he didn't win, but at least he fought 5 rounds. Sometimes his cardio is in check, and he's a problem. He fought Khamzat Chimaev. He outstruck Chimaev. He landed over 100 significant strikes on Chimaev. Chimaev took him down twice, and he just pops back up. The guy looks very well rounded. He's gassed after 3, don't get me wrong, but it was such a hectic pace. It's like, damn, when Gilbert is on, yeah, the guy's a problem. Now you look at these 2 losses, and you say, well, he's not on anymore. But one thing that Madalena does that Brady doesn't is he's a good striker. So when you're gassed and you're up 2 rounds and you're gassed and it's the 3rd round and this guy's swinging for the fences on you, it's a problem. Brady does not swing for the fences. In fact, that's kind of my knock on Brady. You look at his last win against Kelvin Gastelum, he landed 14 significant strikes over the course of, he subbed him in the third, but he's so reliant on the takedowns. 5 of them, lots of control time, some submission attempts, and he subs them, but 12 significant strikes. Prior to that, he fought Bilal Muhammad, right? Do you think he went 5 rounds with Bilal Muhammad? Hell no. He went 2 rounds, not even 2 full rounds. He got dummied up 80 to 58, could not take him down. And you want to talk about Burns gassing against Madalena, Brady absolutely gassed against Bilal Muhammad. Now, what's troublesome to me is Bilal Muhammad, the reason why people love giving him so much shit, is here's a guy that decision wins 5 rounds against Vicente Luque. He decision win Damian Maia. He decision win Diego Lima. Decision win Lyman Good. Decision win Takashi Sato. Sorry, not Sato. Curtis Millender. He decision win Chance Rencounter. He decisioned Tim Means, but there's only one guy that Bilal Muhammad's knocked out, Sean Brady. So the guy's durability is not very good. His striking's not bad, but he does not throw a whole lot of volume. The only time you've ever seen him land a whole lot in a fight was actually his UFC debut against Court McGee. And in that fight, 3-1 favorite, completely gasses after 2 rounds, won the first 2 rounds, potentially lost the 3rd round to Court McGee in his debut. Since then, he's not throwing. He's landed 47, 34, 37, 18, 58, and 14 in 6 subsequent fights. So his cardio is not good either. His striking is not good. It's not that it's not good. It's that he's so worried that if he overextends himself and overexerts himself, he's going to gas out. That really he's only comfortable in securing takedowns and out grinding you. That's it. So that becomes a problem against Burns because even though his cardio is not good either, you can't really make a strong argument that it's that much worse than Sean Brady's. In fact, this guy's fought 5 rounds twice in his career. If you're using MMA math, similar opponent, they both fall below. Burns is able to, survive and keep going, whereas Brady just folds up. If Brady does not get his takedowns, he looks like a deer in headlights. So, yeah, that's worried to me too. Now look at their actual striking. Who's the better striker? Yeah, Gilbert Burns by a country mile. He's actually got decent wins. He's actually landed some good shots. He won the first round against Kamaru Usman before getting stiff jabbed. He was very competitive against Chimaev, up a weight class on short notice. There's things to me that certainly indicate that Burns is a better striker. The grappling, that's Sean Brady's literally only thing. And Gilbert Burns is a former ADCC competitor, a high-level BJJ black belt. He trains out of one of the best gyms in America, if not the whole world. He's been 5 rounds. He has that experience. Yeah, he's coming off 2 losses, one to the current champion and one to an Uber prospect who, again, he won the first 2 rounds. He's just in the third. Is it his cardio is bad, or is that Madalena is one of these guys that just doesn't stop going? Because that's what Jack Madalena is. And so, man, it becomes so tricky to me now. And so this is an even money fight as far as I'm concerned, or like minus 125 Sean Brady. But to say it's minus 175 Sean Brady, it's like based on what? Well, Brady's got better cardio. I don't think you can argue that. Well, Brady's a better wrestler. Yeah, maybe. But Burns has got 80% takedown defense. Who are the guys that have taken him down? Chimaev? Okay, fair. Brady's got great jiu-jitsu, so does Burns. And Brady's striking, and especially the volume, he's not keeping pace. So the 5 rounds is the biggest thing, dude. If this is 3 rounds, I think I'm taking Gilbert Burns. 5 rounds, I'm going to agree with you. The 38, the coaching, the life after fighting, that's actually ingrained in my head too. Like I think that the end is probably starting to draw near. Fights for not a world title, fights a 5-round headlining fight, huge moment, loses. Very next fight, you're taking on a guy on his way up and he's not motivated. And as a result, his cardio is not as good. And as a result, you're seeing he's thinking about life after fighting. So how motivated is he here to fight Sean Brady? I'm not sure. But again, it's a headlining fight. It's a big spot. Good chance to get paid 2 paychecks. Go out there and fight to the best of your ability. So I think I'm just going to take a dogger pass here, man. I'll take Gilbert Burns. But yeah, it's not going to be high up. It's going to have to be something that you're going to have to bet with a reasonable expectation.
There's a roller coaster of emotions figuring out where you were going to pick there. Because I feel
people will say in the comment section, he makes a case for both sides, but it's like both guys have merit. Both guys could win this fight. Both guys in certain situations will win this fight. But ultimately, I have to make a deciding factor. Sean Brady's an excellent fighter. Burns is an excellent fighter. They have holes in their game. So you're just trying to line up who might be able to take advantage of those. And underdog main event, I'm not going to fault myself on that one, but you're right. I do sometimes talk around in circles, and that's just because I'm trying to touch on 100 points without having any notes in front of me.
I'm the guy who said that, that that there was 9 takedowns and there were 0 takedowns. Where I got that 9 takedowns from was Felipe dos Santos versus Andrade Lima. And Felipe dos Santos got taken down 9 times by Victor Altamirano, which is a pretty big red flag.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that fight way later.
I got
down
thoughts
the
on that
card.
one too. Yes.
I mean, this main event,
I
mean, you make tons of good points on both sides. And yeah, of course there's like, you know, oh, he's picking or he's talking about both sides. It's like, well, it's minus 175 plus 150, which is, you know, basically like a 60-40 split. So 60% of the time, 40% of the time. Of course, both guys have, you know, path to victory in this spot. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I have much, unless there's something crazy with like props or something degenerate. And it would probably
a good live bet, I think.
Yeah. Or maybe Burns' submission skills are just way better than Brady's, and we'll find that out. I don't know. A Gilbert Burns submission prop, if it was like super juicy, could be maybe interesting, but I don't know. I'm all in circles about this. We got the co-main event. We got Natalia Silva taking on Jessica Andrade. Minus 300 for Silva. Andrade can be had for plus 250. Narrative Nation, which suggests that there's like some sort of like drama going on with Andrade and an MMA manager, and we know how MMA managers are, and you know some of the sneaky stuff that goes on. I mean, you would probably know better about this type of stuff than anybody, frankly. I saw like an article that like she's trying to sue somebody for like $2 million right now. I think she's giving up a lot of speed and technicality in this matchup. And the old Jessica Andrade, the one that would just run through things, could absolutely cause big-time problems. And Natalia Silva did struggle last time out, you know, when she had to face a bit of a takedown threat against Viviane Araujo. It's just like, it was very, very low volume. It looked very tentative. It was by far, you know, it was a step up in competition, and she looked a little bit like she was like meeting her peak. So I am intrigued by an Andrade at, you know, CF dot model, all of that type of stuff. Plus 250 on Andrade, it seems awfully enticing here. But I think she's giving up a lot of speed and technicality. Can she make it ugly? Can she get inside? Can she get takedowns? That's the real question I wanted to ask you before I really make like a play on this fight.
Yeah, Paul, you should know me long enough now that I am Narrative Nation, dog. I love me a good storyline, and I love this storyline. Yeah, okay. So for Jessica Andrade, this is just as a greasy theory is all it really is. So anyways, she marries this Fernanda Gomez. It's her longtime girlfriend. They date for 4 or 5 years. She marries her, right? Then late last year, Fernanda Gomez, her and Fernanda split, and she loses half of her stuff. In fact, she loses apparently more than half of her stuff. So this is a Jessica Andrade that has 38 professional fights. She's only 32 years old. She's fought her entire life. She's won a world title at 115. She's challenged for a world title at 125. She's fought absolutely everybody of relevance and a bunch of people of non-relevance in the division. She is OG gangster, but she loses like, you know, typical divorce. She loses everything. So now she goes into this mode, and she's vocal about it, about how I have no money. I need to fight random people in bad matchups on short notice, underprepared, because I need to pay for these lawyer bills. And that's what leads to this losing streak. Losing to Erin Blanchfield by submission is no big deal. What was a big deal is that Erin Blanchfield was out striking her soundly on the feet. Problem. Next one, Yao Jinan. Yao Jinan is actually an excellent fighter. Not really known as a power puncher, right? You can't go to a whole lot of her fights where she's absolutely KO'd somebody. And yet Andrade completely KO'd in that fight in the first round. And very vocal about, I barely trained for that one. Then she gets Tatiana Suarez, which, of course, you can't come in underprepared. And yeah, she got taken down and she got submitted. So she comes out of it and she's like, oh, the divorce is over. And I've paid for everything. And thanks to the UFC for booking me these extremely difficult matchups and paying me. And now it's like head clear of conscience. But what more important is that she loses to Blanchfield at 125. She loses to Jan at 115. She loses to Tatiana Suarez at 115. Mackenzie Dern wins and Marina Rodriguez wins at 115. And now she's coming back up to 125. Now, why would that be? You're on a run at 115. You're gaining because she wants to stay as active as possible, Because now that she's got this divorce out of the way, she's realized the reason she actually doesn't have no money is her manager of 14 years has been screwing her. Not in that sense, in the other sense. Been taking all of her money. So she got an ex-wife that took half and a manager that took the other half. And so to me, she's just looking to compete. She knows that she wants to fight. She wants to stay active. She'll take whatever fight you put in front of her at whatever weight class you put in front of her because she's chasing the money a little bit. Now, I'll admit, against Durden, she looked good. She moves forward. She boxes her up. Durden can't take the heavy onslaught. She crumbles over. Against Marina Rodriguez, this one's interesting. The first round, Andrade gets the takedown, wins the first round. The second round, she's losing the second round. There's like, I don't know, 90 seconds, maybe minute 45 left. She turns on the heat. She rushes forward. She lands a series of big shots. That sways the judges, two of the judges, into giving her back that second round. And then in the third round, she's swinging at air. She's short. She's compact. And we always compared her to John Lineker. And you'll appreciate this. Lineker at 125, ooh, he's a problem. Lineker at 135, not so much, because he's just so small that it's hard for him to get inside that pocket the same way he would do at 125. She's the same way when she moves up a weight class. At 115, she's a tornado. She just comes forward. You can't get out of the way. At 125, these bigger girls are able to matador her and counterpunch her and hurt her. Jan hurts her. Rodriguez is able to play that longer game, so to speak. And I feel like that's what Natalia Silva brings to the table. She's faster. She's bigger. She's longer. She likes to counterpunch from the outside. Her fight with Jasmine Jasudavicius, she puts over well over 100 significant strikes, a couple takedowns, solid performance. The fight with Teresa Bleda, she got taken down in the first and largely got grinded in the first. Second and third, she comes on. That fight with Viviane Arroyo, taken down in the first, second and the third, she comes on. Cardio's not a problem. Striking solid. I feel like Andrade's best advantage would try to be to utilize the wrestling. Why that won't be as effective is because she's coming back up to 115, where you can't just throw these girls around the same way, right? Second thing is girls have tried to use that game plan, and if you can't consistently do it for 3 full rounds, Natalia's going to get up. Now, standing, listen, this is a really good striking match. Andrade will probably blitz forward and throw hands and do that, but I feel like the bigger opponent, who's a natural counterpuncher in Natalia Silva, should be able to, navigate those waters. Now, the UFC looks at Natalia. She's got an excellent looking record. She's since she's come to the UFC, she's starting to build some serious momentum. I feel like they're trying to move her, position her maybe to the upper echelon of the division. Andrade, she's a huge name. She's fought in everybody. This would be an excellent opportunity as a co-main event on this, nice little fight night card to go out there and gain some notoriety amongst the casual fans by beating a name and game opponent. So I feel like Natalia Silva wins. It's the CF Dot model of the nature, right? Women's MMA, you want me to bet minus 300 against a former champion. Oh, the money line I really don't like. But in terms of how the fight plays out, I'm thinking Natalia Silva outstrikes her 29-28. Natalia Silva could knock her out in theory as well. She could intercept her with a big shot. We've seen Andrade seriously hurt when she's not ready to fight a hard 15 minutes. She tends to face a little adversity and crumple. So I don't even love the over on this fight. I think it'd be a very good striking battle that Natalia Silva ends up winning on either 29-28 or some type of knockout.
Yeah. I guess after Contender Series, are knockouts back, bro? Or were those just the Contender Series gloves?
I think Shannon Clark. Yeah, the Contender Series seems to get more knockouts, but it's probably lower level fighting. But everywhere this morning, it was crazy KO for the ages. Dana White says one of the craziest KOs. It was like a sloppy overhand right that just. Yeah, and it's all about a KO is very much how the human body reacts. You get these KOs where the guy's stiff and goes down, and it's like, whoa. The technique itself is just she just punched her one time in the face. But holy crap, did Shannon Clark ever go out? So that's a tough one for Clark, who's still 5-1, but you there's no coming back from that. You're a human highlight reel for life. They'll always play you on the intro for every season of the Contender Series for the rest of existence. That's you're a minus 3,000 favorite. Not that I bet it. I actually took the over one. I took it over 2.5. That was even stupider, probably. I'm obviously not going to bet a girl at minus 3,000. But all the same, it's she lost everybody in both scenarios. Everybody had a bad time betting Shannon Clark. So I see she turned all over social media to private and is basically going to go hide under a rock. She's also in her 30s. I don't doubt that that's the last time you see her in a notable organization.
Minus 3,000 favorite?
Well, it's just started climbing. In the morning, it was minus 900, right? And then I looked back in the afternoon, and this is just bet online. Other books may have fluctuated differently, but she was minus 1,800 during the afternoon. And then as the fight was starting to come out, I've noticed, maybe it's just bet online, but I've noticed just in general, these lines have been swinging a ton, like hundreds of points, like 300 points. Now, it's one thing to understand regional MMA, LFA, for example, BKFC, something like that, Aries FC. You'll be able to swing the line with a little bit of money. There's these other instances where a UFC fight or a Contender Series fight or a Bellator fight shouldn't be swinging 300 points in a 45-minute time frame. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I couldn't tell you. Maybe just the books are wising up, that money's coming in, and they're immediately looking to just shift it.
They're just moving the price, just hoping that somebody buys back on the other side because they're like, we don't want to be over-invested in, Yunzi Dubin. They didn't want to take a stand.
I wonder. You know.
I mean, guys, I'm looking at the numbers right now. I was drafting like 2 football drafts last night, and so I didn't realize, like, when you said like minus 3,000. Now I look at it, it's like minus 2,000, minus 2,500 in some spots. Like, that number went absolutely nuclear. I wasn't paying attention for basically last night. I wasn't able to even watch the Contender Series card. So you kind of surprised me when you said that number, because I'm like, that's not what I saw earlier in the night, but clearly things changed.
If you look at all of them, this Quinlan Salkill guy, right? And I actually got him like, I don't know, an hour before the show. Nah, not an hour. That's a lie. A couple hours before the show starts, he's minus 180, and then he goes off at like minus 220. That was not egregious, right? Clark took on 1,000 points. Austin Bashi, here's a great one. Austin Bashi's sitting around minus 700 for the majority of the week, and then he ends up going off at 11 or 1,200. This Will Curry ended up being god-awful, but Will Curry's sitting at minus 350 all day long, and then fight's about to happen, and he's sitting minus 500 range. And then this Igor Calvacanti, also a fraud. Same thing. I think he moved from like 350 to 500. So I couldn't tell you. I don't know if the pools are so small. Or here's like, I don't know. It's another stupid greasy theory. But in horse racing, what some like really, really sharp bettors were able to do is you bet. Let's say I bet Igor Calvacanti, and I don't want the guy, but I bet him, and I bet 10 grand on him. Now the line, right? It shifts towards Igor Calvacanti. Now I can pull my money out depending on the book. I can say, sorry, I don't actually really want to make that bet prior to it starting. You can cancel the bet. But you putting that money in has fluctuated the number. And then other people are going to just turn it on and say, Shannon Clark's a minus 3,000 favorite. Now click. They don't do no research. They just see everybody else is betting on her. And it's moved the number from 1,800 to 3,000. It's just an auto bet. It's going to auto bet this. People do the same thing in football. Florida State's playing, or what's the Seminoles? Florida State Seminoles. Our Cubs are going to be bossy. They probably don't do any research. They probably don't look at the fact that the team started the season off 0-1 and it has a bunch of different players than last year and blah, blah, blah. They don't look at that. They just see it as a big number. So I almost wonder if someone's not able to put money, and I'm saying 10 grand. 10 grand wouldn't shifted enough, but like one of these Drake type guys, but sharp. Not just an idiot with money, a sharp with money. Someone was able to put money on one side and then take a cash out. I don't want to make that bet. Book says, you're a preferred player, so we'll let you cash it out. Many books will do that. You get your money back. If the line is shifted, now you cram it the other side at a much better number. So whereas people will be like, put your tinfoil hat on. Very common in horse racing. You can get a simulcast that's 5 or 10 seconds in front of like the general one. So it's not like you're cheating. It's that they'll put 10 grand on one side. They'll change the whole betting board by putting the bet, and then they'll pull the bet. And then, the betting board will probably readjust, but it doesn't readjust in real time just like that. And so as it's taking time to adjust, you put your bet on the other side. Now, horse racing did to combat it is that if you do that, the numbers never lock in. They're constantly moving. So if you bet a horse at 8-1 and someone puts $1 million on it, someone puts $100,000 on him, that horse will now go off at 5-2 or 2-1. It'll change in real time. You don't get that 8-1 anymore. This is different. You could bet this thing a week ago and it locks in. So number tampering is probably absolutely in play. If there's money to be made, someone's doing it. That's all I got to say.
I mean, and looking at like the board and how it moved last night, it kind of looks like there was like a bunch of like arbitrage going on. Yeah. Not even suspicious. Like, people were probably driving a certain number and then taking the plus money at like, say, DraftKings or FanDuel or whatever. I know like Bet Online, I think there was like $2,000 limits on a lot of those. And frankly, like from my perspective, maybe people in America have like a different perspective, but like I feel like for MMA, the market seems to follow Bet Online more often than not.
Bet online did not allow parlays on those Contender Series fights until 5 hours out.
Yeah.
Right. So a little after 3 o'clock, they were like, okay, you can make parlays. So yeah, of course they're worried about, is somebody getting a better number and then just throwing it on a ticket with something else and multiplying it. So yeah, we talked about it a few weeks ago. The game's evolving. Like, sharpers are getting sharper, and
Books
the
are getting
books
smarter.
figuring out the books are figuring out a way how to, combat certain maneuvers and certain techniques that we've enjoyed to have success. But again, yeah, it's all about life in general. It's all about adaptability. So that's all we can do.
When we get to Dulgarian later on, that's something that didn't exist 5 years ago, right? Like, nobody would ever be that price. But all right, we've been dragging our heels a little bit. Let's get into the action more. Maybe a little bit more speedy here. We got Steve Garcia taking on Kyle Nelson, minus 180 for Steve. Kyle Nelson could be after plus 155. Steve has been like a one-man wrecking crew. Don't get me wrong. Since Mahashate, the legend of Mahashate, Mahashat in your apple pie, Steve's been absolutely crushing it. I've been backing Steve in a whole bunch of situations. I haven't bet anything on the actual fight here, but it's an over 1.5. I got plus 140, so I didn't even get like a great number. I see it's like plus 150 now. I think Kyle Nelson, maybe early in his career when we fought Carlos Diego Ferreira, the cardio looked like a bit of an issue. But over time, and the chin has been knocked in round 3 against Billy Q, but like a lot of that had to do with the cardio. He went on a run of like a bunch of decision fights, closely competitive. I think he's rounded out the skill set. I like the over 1.5 from this fight. I know Steve's been a one-man wrecking crew, absolutely knocking out everyone. He's got power in his hands, but I feel like 7.5 minutes, Kyle Nelson has been fighting a lot smarter. I think he's going to avoid engaging in just like an absolute slobber knocker early on. Give me 7.5 minutes here at plus 150. I mean, I already took some plus 140. I'll probably take more if the number continues to grow. And if I think it's going to go over 1.5, I think it's a dogger pass situation here. Kyle Nelson's got decent kickboxing. He's been working on that grappling game. I think he can at least make this competitive. I don't know about betting Steve at nearly minus 200. What's your take here?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kyle Nelson money line with the plus money. But yeah, I'm expecting an absolute car crash. You're over 1.5. Brother, I love over 1.5. I'll bet over 1.5 and everything. Card last night in any series, that Calvacanti, he had never fought longer than 88 seconds. We went with that over 1.5. I love them. Steve Garcia, dude, I don't know that I would touch a under 1.5 or a over 1.5. Sorry. He's had 7 fights in the UFC. 6 of them have been under 1.5. He also knocked out his opponent on the Contender Series in the first round. So with like 7 fights with the promotion-ish, 8, he's hitting that under 1.5 every time. Either he knocks you out very quickly or you knock him out fairly quickly. That's his issue, is that he's not a very complete fighter. He can wrestle a little bit. He can certainly slug it out. His God-given talent is he's got massive amounts of power in his left and right hand. He is a 145 white version of Derek Lewis. He hits you, it's a problem. It's that just like Derek Lewis, he doesn't actually have a whole lot of skill. His wrestling's mid, his cardio's mid, his boxing's not all that good. Instead, if he hits you, you are so screwed. You look back at his run, right? His fight with Charlie Ontiveros, he got dropped twice, 2 clean knockdowns, almost knocked out. Charlie only landed 7 strikes in the whole fight, and 2 of them dropped Steve, okay? He gets back up and he wins, but his chin's a problem. The very next fight against Mahashat, that's the one you were on him with, he gets knocked down twice, and he runs headfirst into a counterpunch that floors him. The next fight against Chase Hooper, he's a huge underdog, and he beat Chase Hooper. I'm going to rate that win. It's a quality win. But then you got Shilan Nurmbayaki. He got dropped again in the first round. He gets back up and he ends up winning based on his opponents getting tired or, making a mistake and him capitalizing. But his chin is equally as bad as his massive power punching. So again, when you're looking at it over 1.5, I don't love it, man. If he beats Kyle Nelson, we've seen Nelson knocked out by Billy Q, as you mentioned.
That was round 3,
Carlos Diego. It was round 3, but it was 7 seconds into round 3. So it was basically the very first punch that landed in round 3. Yeah, fair. But again, Carlos Diego Ferreira, I give him a pass on that one because it was a week's notice. at 155 pounds, up a weight class, against Carlos Diego Ferreira, and it was a UFC debut.
Yep.
I'm going to give him a pass. That was him gassing out. But I've seen him take a kickboxing match for Infusion over in Nova Scotia. He got butchered. So as much as he is a junkyard dog, there is a precedent for him getting knocked out. And Steve likes to set the precedent on knocking people out. So 100% I can see Steve knocking out Kyle. In the same breath, Steve's been wobbled and hurt by lesser punchers than Nelson. And even though Kyle Nelson isn't really revered as some big power puncher, he's got that dog in him. He moves forward. His fight with Bill Algeo, maybe an early stoppage. But you see when he unloads his hands and gets off with his striking, he is a bit of a problem. Longtime prodigy of Crew Alin over in Hamilton. The guy can strike. He's rounded out his cardio, as you mentioned. The 5 takedowns against Doo Ho Choi, impressive enough to suggest that, his wrestling with Adrian Woolley, Coach Adrian Woolley, is really working for him. He's well-rounded his game. Is he a world beater? No. Is he a Nate Landwehr? No. But similar to a Nate Landwehr, he can bring that dog. He can bring that pressure. He can bring that pace. He can wrestle a little bit. He can strike a little bit. He can just be tougher and meaner than his opponent. And I think that's what led to this 4-fight winning streak. When I look at Garcia's 4-fight winning streak, he smokes Hooper, a young kid. He beats Nurmbayake on a fight that he had to come off the floor on. Seriously hurt. Milk Costa was like the flu in that fight. He did absolutely nothing. He fought a wicked good 3 rounds against Austin Lingo, 1 fight prior. The very next fight against Garcia, he just tries to wrestle for the first 2 rounds in gas. Very strange. And then against Sungwoo Choi, again, it's like he's not looking great early, and then bang, he hits Sungwoo Choi, and that's the end of it. So I'm not trying to crap on him. The guy is action personified, and get ready to sign him a $50,000 bonus if he wins. It's that there's a lot of gray area and red flags if he does not land that killer KO. Nelson, meanwhile, he's had to work for the whole thing. Doo Ho Choi draw, that's because Choi lost a point, but still, Choi's pretty badass. The fight prior against Jai Herbert, he got robbed, dude. He went to enemy territory, he fought him tooth and nail, and I thought he won. And then the 3-fight winning streak, Blake Builder looked good. His fight with Fernando Padilla, he looked really good at 2 underdog cashes there. And then Bill Algeo, a 3rd underdog cash, 3 in a row, had landed 32 significant strikes on Bill in 4 minutes of action alone. Cardio looks better, pace looks better, striking looks better. Yeah, he's 33, but it's taken him this long and this much experience to finally find that sweet spot in his life and in his career. And I feel like I'm going to roll with that. So no disrespect to Steve Garcia, but Steve, you bet as an underdog. Steve against anybody, you bet him as an underdog. That's the kind of guy he is. You do not bet Steve Garcia as a near 2-1 favorite because, there's a 50-50 side to crazy action win. The dark side of that is him getting blasted out of there or potentially just tiring out or running out of ideas. I don't know. I don't know. It's a dog or pass for me personally. Dog is Kyle Nelson. I'm going to take Kyle Nelson.
All I will say, Kyle Nelson went in there against Fernando Padilla. Padilla knocked down Arosa, and then in his most recent fight, he knocked down his other opponent there. Nelson doesn't get knocked down, goes tit for tat, wins a competitive but a clear decision for him in that fight. Doesn't even have to utilize the wrestling, just kind of stays out of trouble, minds his P's and Q's. I think his chin issues are a little bit overblown. Steve can bomb on anybody, can cause knockout against basically anybody. But I may not be able. There may be Kyle Nelson 10-1 props by decision. Nelson by decision plus 1,000. I don't think I'm going to be able to help myself, Cody. That's all I'm saying. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. All right, we got Cody Durden taking on Matt Danger Schnell. Minus 300 for Durden, plus 250 for Schnell. Durden coming in on super short notice. Alessandro Costa was supposed to be in this spot. Schnell's another guy that we have big time question marks about that chin, that durability. Is Durden the guy to crack it, particularly Durden on short notice? That's the real question in this fight, Cody. What's your take?
Yeah, I'm just trying to look. So obviously it was him versus Costa initially, and then he is currently booked against Cody Durden, which is everything I've been hearing. But like UFC stats, you know what I'm talking about, UFC stats.
Yeah.
They got him as fighting Josh Van. I'm just trying to figure out why. Why is that listed?
Van's
Van
on
he's on the
next week's
pay-per-view
card. Yeah.
He's fighting on the Sphere, so it makes sense that they would just shift him up a week, but it's probably just a mistake. That's a mistake. Who cares about it? Here's my issue with Durden. I think Durden wins this fight. He wins this fight fairly easily if he was in shape and good to go, but he's not in shape and good to go. And here's another mistake. Tapology's telling you it's at 125. It's not. It's actually at 135 because Durden's taking the fight on a week's notice. Durden's not particularly in shape. He was heavy when the UFC called him, but the guy's a junkyard dog. These are the moments that he lives for. And so he's driving out to Las Vegas and making it happen. Apparently, his girlfriend's cornering him. He's gone on record. Daniel Levy would have the best scoops on it because he's kind of buddies with him and sees him around. But apparently, Durden does not have a corner. He does not have a coach going with him. Him and his girlfriend are just packing up and driving out. He's on a week's notice and he can't make 125, so he's going up to 135. But the guy just loves to fight. He's a company man. He loves to fight. I'm not going to fault that. Not save a card, but save a fight. Badass, but to bet it, that's where it becomes a little bit troublesome. It's like, I think Cody Durden beats this guy based on he's the stronger guy, he's got the better wrestling. But the week's notices, again, it's too much for me to kind of get my head around. Durden's not got great cardio. I mean, you can look to certain instances where the Chris Gutierrez fight, he gasses. All right, short notice, tough opponent, sure. Jimmy Flick fight, he just makes that one mistake. The Makayev fight, just one mistake. A lot of these other fights, he just racks up a lot of takedowns. Jake Hadley, he gets caught in triangle armbar, escapes, wins the fight. But again, there's moments where you might be able to catch him. Tagir Ulanbekov, he does exactly that. He chokes him out. And then Bruno Silva, and I'm riding high on Bruno Silva. Durden's looking like a madman, dude. He's walking him down. He's landing shots. He's power doubles to the ground. Strong top game. And then boom, beautiful timed uppercut just lights him out. So his durability, whether it be him getting knocked out, whether it be him getting submitted, it is on the table. He pushes a crazy pace. I can't actually say he has got bad cardio. He pushes a crazy pace that his cardio can't necessarily keep up. This fight with Matt Schnell, everybody knows Matt Schnell's chinny. I think you mentioned it before you even threw it to me. Matt Schnell, where's his durability at? Nobody knows. And Durden would understand that as well. That I've got a guy here that if I punch him one time square in the face, he's going over. So it doesn't matter that I only got one round of cardio, that I'm not in shape, that I'm taking this fight up a weight class. They both are. They're both flyweights. Yeah, he's bonus hunting. He's going to go out there and he's just going to slang and bang. The question becomes if it does not work, if you don't catch him, will you start to get tired? And if you do start to get tired, Matt Schnell's faster than him. Matt Schnell has actually better technical boxing. He's got some decent pop in his step. He's fought in, I wouldn't say a better level of experience, but certainly very experienced guys. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's excellent at scrambles, and he's got a cardio advantage. So the only thing that Matt Schnell doesn't got going for him here is his chin. And yes, defensive wrestling, not bad, but Durden likely does bowl him over. It's that Schnell's got an excellent grappling. He's got a nasty triangle choke. He likes to have good quick scrambles. You've seen Durden have some success, make one small mistake and get caught in these submissions. So yes, Schnell is able to win this fight multiple different ways. But like when you think about it, it's like, I just don't know that he's going to sit there and take a square shot from Cody Durden and keep going. If Durden comes at him just like a human meat missile for 5 minutes, that might actually be all it takes.
It's true.
So what do you say the line was currently as of writing for
minus
Durden?
300 Durden, which I just think is crazy.
I'm going to take Schnell. It should be a flyweight fight. It's short notice. He's apparently not bringing a coach. It's up a weight class. Minus 300 for this type of spot is absolutely crazy. So maybe Matt Schnell is the PRP pick, an underdog, some serious plus money that actually could come through, but you can't be ton confident on it. Yeah, maybe that's what he is for me this week. I will take Matt Schnell. Oh my God, are you going to be sweating? Are you going to be sweating? Every time Cody Durden even moves his hands, you're going to be like, oh!
At least they're giving us the number to sweat a little bit less. Like if you bet Matt Schnell, it's like in any range of outcomes in that fight, him getting floored very early is 100% on the table. So, buyer beware and all of that good stuff.
A last
But,
point
yeah,
here.
minus
a last
300
point here.
short notice. Who knows where, and the guys are just going to come in slugging, throwing, overhand rights, going crazy, trying to get 50K for, stepping up and taking a fight like this on incredibly short notice. That just, it's all well and good until it doesn't work, right? So it seems very dogger pass, like take my money if I lose.
Here's my last point, and then we'll move on because you're right. We got to rifle through some of these. He in 2019, right? He fights Alexander Pantoja, goddamn current champ, right? Then he beats Tyson Nam, very quality victory. I rate both those guys better than Cody Durden. He has a no contest with Rogerio Bontorin, who's actually pretty good. He fights Brandon Royval, which he was doing good until he wasn't. Actually, he was doing really good on his feet until he got subbed. Brandon Royval, title challenger. He fought Matus Nicolau, one of the better guys of the division. He fought Steve Erzig in his last fight, who is a former title challenger. And they originally got him booked against Alessandro Costa on this fight. Like, all Matt Schnell does is fight the best guys. That arguably, when they're like, would you rather fight Cody Durden on a week's notice instead? Yes, I'd rather fight Cody Durden than some of these other guys I've been banging it out with. So, goddamn bad durability. Outside of that, let's roll with it, brother.
Now we got your boy, Trevor Peak, taking on Yanal Ashmouz. It's Trevor Peak fight week, Cody. It's your boy. I liked it. Like, in terms of, like, you go through these fights and you're like, it's going to be a good time. Maybe it's because we missed UFC for a week proper, but, like, this is kind of a fight that it's like, this is my dirty little secret, but it's like, I'm going to enjoy the shit out of this, it's Trevor Peak fight week. How can I not be having a good time? Overhand, standing hammer fists from the top rope. I don't know if I would really want to bet your boy, but I'm interested to hear what you have to say first.
Yeah, and that's why if I was ever the president of the UFC, which I'll never be, I'd be like, dude, we are writing a Mexican love letter at the Sphere. Put Trevor Peak on because he embodies what it is to be Mexican without having any type of Hispanic heritage whatsoever. Peak fights like a human car crash. We love him. It's Peak week. We love it. But yeah. I think just him getting into the sport a little bit late, like you got to realize that Trevor Peak is now in his 30s. He is 30, I believe. Sorry, 29 years old, coming up on his 30th birthday. He has got all of these attributes to him that you cannot teach. He's got a cast iron chin. It's held up many times. His cardio looks super wonky at times, but he pushes through it. He's got unbelievable heart, unbelievable durability. So that the actual skill set hasn't really caught up to those things. Great person, but it's going to take a lot of work. And so when you're 24 years old, don't take as much damage as Peak's taking in these fights, but you've got 6 more years to blossom and develop. Peak's kind of against borrowed time simply because his style, which is just take a crazy amount of damage, you can't do that forever. And so he needs to now adjust to using some wrestling and setting up his punches and maybe kind of taking the path of least resistance. So he's doing everything right. He spent a lot of time in Colorado. He trains out there with Dwayne Ludwig, gets work with tons of good guys. Corey Sandhagen's gym. Cardio seems to be improving. His technical boxing and his footwork seem to be improving. But then you will see guys like Chepe Mariscal or Charlie Campbell that if they get tired of striking with him, they just take him down. Most guys get tired of striking with him at some point, not because it's anything technical, but just like you said, the hammer fist, the standing hammer fist, the weird angles, the shuffle uppercuts, the hooks from the hip side, him chewing on his mouth guard and just marching forward on you, that it gets eventually you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. You take him down. At some point, if he gets brick wall takedown defense, it becomes a problem for a lot of guys simply because where he lacks technical skill, he makes up in raw aggression, raw power. So listen, I'm a Trevor Peak guy. You'll never hear me say a bad word about him. Then my guy. But it's like the UFC needs to be very weary of what he brings to the table and then match him up accordingly. So with Ashmouz, like he's a more technical striker. The guy's definitely got a better kicking game. He seems to be a little faster on the outside. It's that I don't necessarily think he's got some great grappling game to fall back on. And if he's not going to grapple Trevor Peak, then he's leaving himself open to getting detonated at some point. His fight with Chris Duncan on the Contender Series, sorry, not on the Contender Series. His fight with Sam Patterson, that's a quality win. I was high on Sam Patterson. I still am high on Sam Patterson. Ashmouz blasts him. That's his win condition. He can get a quick knockout. He's fought a lot of inexperienced guys on the regional scene. He can get a quick knockout. If the knockout doesn't materialize, that's where he falls up creek. Against Chris Duncan, He apparently blew his leg out in the first round. I don't know. He still gets tripled up in strike numbers. His takedown defense is not there. This is a guy that's not a grappler, despite him training at a K-Dojo Warrior Tribe in New Jersey, same gym as Khabib Nurmagomedov started out there. There's been a lot of excellent grapplers that have come out of K-Dojo Warrior Tribe. Yanal Ashmouz ain't one of them. He's very much a quick striker. So if he doesn't mix up those takedowns against Peak, I just like feel like Peak eventually just walks him into something, clips him with something, hurts him with something, and then puts Ashmouz away. Last thing, not that it really matters, but like Yanal Ashmouz, he's beating regional scene guys, doesn't matter. He fights on PFL Challenger Series in 2022 against this Dennis Hughes. He's a 3.5-1 favorite over Dennis Hughes. And PFL Challenger Series is a Dana White's Contender Series ripoff, right? They just give out one contract instead of 5 every week. But that's the same format. There's 5 fights, one guy gets a contract. Ashmouz wins a decision as a 3.5-1 favorite. Didn't look that good. Did not get awarded a contract. And then takes a short notice debut in the UFC as he was a plus 225 underdog instead. So it's not like PFL saw anything in him. They allow him to just walk readily. The UFC brings him in because it's short notice and he's an underdog. And because he wins, you now owe him the other 3 fights on his contract. So they give him one against Duncan. He looks bad. And now there's not a whole lot of guys for Peak to beat. How many guys are worse grapplers than Trevor Peak? How many guys, are going to stand and bang with Trevor Peak? How many guys are win condition is just knocking this guy out quick and Trevor Peak's never been finished? Not a whole lot, right? So this is excellent matchmaking because it's what Trevor Peak needs. But this is a crossroads fight. If Ashmouz loses this, his ceiling is non-existent. He's done. If Peak loses this, not that he's done, is nothing like that, but like you'll have seen where his ceiling is, and it'll have to be pretty low, right? So I really need Peak to go out there and not only win, blast this guy's head off, which I expect him to do. So give me Trevor Peak by KO. And this is actually just like grittiness and toughness overcoming a slight speed and technical advantage. So sign me up for Peak, baby.
All right, we got Rongzhu taking on Chris Padilla, minus 220 for Rongzhu, plus 190 for Padilla. Who you got?
Yeah, mixed emotions on this one. So on one hand, Rongzhu looks like not the real deal, but the kid's 24 years old and he's got 30 pro fights. He comes out of Enbo in China. It's a system that they essentially take orphan kids and just teach them how to fight, teach them some life lessons and stuff, and then eventually churn them out, manage them, and fight. So Rongzhu knows nothing else other than combat. That's why he's so young and has so many fights. Mm-hmm. The UFC initially signed him as a 21-year-old, and it's just far too young. It doesn't matter that you have 20-plus fights. It doesn't matter that you've been doing it for 15 years and you start training when you're 6 years old and you know nothing but this. There's still levels to this, and you're a 21-year-old kid, so it's not an initial good run. He loses to Kazula Vargas. Not a good look. Paul will tell you all about that one. Beats Brandon Jenkins, but he missed weight in that fight and then misses weight again against Ignacio Bahamondes and gets submitted. So it's a bad run. And it's a bad run that you have a 21-year-old kid that can't even make 155. He's not going to fight at 170. Let me be very clear about that. So he's kind of in a weird spot. So the UFC cuts him. It's like, go off and figure out your own stuff. And he's put on a nice run since he's gotten released. He's undefeated since. He won Road to UFC to get back in, and he's earned himself. Now he's 24. Now he's more mature. Now he's bigger. Now he's more filled out. Now he makes 155 more often. But there are still holes to his game. Most notably, the first time around against Kazula Vargas, he takes him down 3 times. He's very reliant on his wrestling. Against Brandon Jenkins, he took Jenkins down 6 times. Against Ignacio Bahamondes, the only success he had is when he got that lone takedown. He's very reliant on the wrestling. Since he's been released, he's been getting taken down. In his last fight against Shin Haraguchi, he gave up 4 takedowns and about 5 minutes of control time. And against Sang-Woo Kim prior to that, he gives up 2 takedowns and about 3 minutes of control time. Both scenarios, you're taking on Southeast Asian competition. They're taking you down. You were primarily known as a grappler. Like, I don't know. I kind of have a feeling that this guy's like well-rounded, but not good enough in one area. His grappling's good enough to take down Kazula Vargas and Brandon Jenkins, but he barely wins both of those fights. Flip side of that, his striking's really not that bad. He scored 3 straight knockdowns, or not 3 straight, but knocked down Brandon Jenkins, knocked out Sung Chang Hong, and eventually knocked him out, and then knocked down that Sung-Woo Kim. So he's got some striking, he's got some power, but he doesn't seem to necessarily flourish against the best strikers of the division. So I think he's just not lost. He's still super young. It's that he hasn't really developed the ring IQ to tie everything together. I think he beats Chris Padilla, but the line's too wide. And the reason I say that is Padilla doesn't seem all that good, but he comes in as a big underdog against James Lontop, and I'm talking big underdog, man. This guy's not expected to do anything in that fight. And what does he do? He's fast, man. This guy's got reactionary takedowns for days. He takes him down, and then right away it's just like, oh, he gets back up. Oh, Lontop's back up. He, boom, blast under, boom, takes him down again. Oh, Lontop gets back up. It's like there's 30 seconds left in the round. Boom, takes him down. Lontop is giving up his back every single time, and Padilla capitalizes, takes the back, sinks the hooks in, gets the rear naked choke, subs him with like 27 seconds left in the first round. Would he have gassed had the fight kept going? Maybe. He was fighting like a wild man. He was fighting like a wild man, and his wrestling actually looked pretty decent. His submission game looked pretty decent. That's his short notice, big underdog UFC debut. Now he's getting a second fight in the UFC with a full camp against a 24-year-old kid that's getting taken down on road to the UFC. Padilla absolutely presents issues and problems. So everyone's expecting Rongzhu to have gotten that much better, but it might be he looks like he's gotten that much better because he's fighting subpar competition. Now he's coming back in here against Chris Padilla, who's certainly not a world beater by any stretch, but is coming off a quality victory his last time out. He's also got wins over UFC veteran Justin James. Prior to that, a split decision against Darren Smith Jr. as a 30-fight regional show veteran, had fought Nate Andrews, Devin Brock, Gabe Green, another UFC veteran. So Christian Aguilera, another UFC veteran, Jason Gonzalez, if you can believe it, a UFC veteran. It's not like he's very good, but you can't fault him for he fights really good guys. And Rongzhu's got 30 pro fights, but has fought mostly bad guys. So if there ever becomes an instance, Paul Shaughnessy, where you would have taught me something like this. You haven't exactly said this exact sentence, but you've said many sentences. You'll know where I'm going with this. You don't bet minus 300 on guys that have lost to Cazulo Vargas. So I'm going to take Chris Padilla. This is another PRP type long shot play. But yeah, we see week in and week out some of these crazy plus money guys. They shouldn't be that plus money. It's just there's a glitch in the system. There's an error in the matrix. Some of these guys are taking too much action, and then they go out there and they get stiffed in the first minute. So I think Padilla could maybe utilize the grappling advantage, use the wrestling, take him down, control him. If you got a rear naked choke, great. Bahamondes, this guy. You can do it too. If not, just win 2 of the 3 rounds and survive if need be. It's the Apex. It's a small little arena. There's not a whole lot of crowd noise. This is a great opportunity to take advantage, take him down, listen to your corner, and do what you need to do to neutralize and get the victory. So underdog play here, but at minus 300, I really couldn't get to Rongzhu at that price personally.
Yeah, that's pretty similar to where my head was at on it. I mean, Padilla, I was interested in his submission prop. It's obviously early in the week, so numbers aren't the greatest. 6 plus 600 is the best on market, which I think is like playable, but I was hoping for it to be a little bit more generous. I guess his last 2 fights, he's won by submission, so it's a little bit too obvious at this point, but the only submission win, or at least UFC submission win for Bahamondes in his career when he took on Rongzhu. And one question for you, I've been watching this road to the UFC, but are these stats on Shin Haraguchi real? Like, he had 13 takedowns last time out. He had another fight where he had 17 takedowns. Like, how's he getting so many takedowns?
How
are they even counting his takedowns?
That's the question right there, is that sometimes you'll see in a UFC fight, it's like they won't count it as a takedown because it's like, oh, he just got up. Yeah, it's a mat return, right? It's like, oh, the guy got back up. You peeled him back down. He got back up. But you remember those days. I'm talking DraftKings first launches, and we're drafting Tim Elliott on the team, where it's like, he himself can outscore your opponent's entire team because they credited him with just an insane amount of takedowns, and takedowns used to score very, very heavy, right? So that rinse and repeat chain wrestling game could yield you 17 takedowns. In actuality, you have 17 takedowns and 4 minutes of control time or 6 minutes of control time. And it's like some of these takedowns have yielded nothing, right? It's just you're keeping the guy guessing. Dulgarian, if you look at Dulgarian's last fight, he maybe had 20 takedowns, but he's not going to get credit with 20 because his opponent's constantly getting up and making him work. And just because you knock a guy's balance off and he goes to a knee, and now you got a rear waist body lock and he's down on one knee up against the cage and he's down, it's not really a takedown. But I'll tell you what, man, I watched the fight. The guy's shooting a lot of takedowns. I just don't know if I'd credit him with 17 of them.
I mean, it's working for Marotte. That's Marab's entire game, is just like, you are just defending takedowns at all costs. That's like, because you're constantly in a state of defense and he's got limitless cardio, you never really get to get off your own offense. So You know, Marotte is a special case. He's like weaponized the cardio and that tenacity. Is it going to work for? It doesn't seem like if you're losing to Zhu Rong, may not work for you at this level. To our boy Shin. Anyway, we got Ryan Superman Spann taking on Ovince St. Preux. We got another minus 300 favorite here. Code OSP can be had for plus 250. OSP, it's like rinse and repeat. OSP, like going into that last fight, you're like, this guy's washed. His durability isn't what it used to be. It hasn't looked good in many, many years. And you had Kennedy and Juku, who just, wasn't able to get him out of there earlier and then kind of fell apart. Things have not been going great for Ryan Spann. He's got historically, half decent power, some decent submission skills. Most of the fights end pretty quickly, but if you can extend them, get into round 2, get into round 3, the cardio kind of falls off of a cliff. I struggle mightily to lay minus 300 on him. Do I think OSP is well over the hill? Yeah. Do I intend on betting OSP? Maybe. But I can't get the Spann at minus 300, man. The guy's got too many holes in the game, too many red flags at this point. What's your take here?
Yeah, we got red flags on both sides, and so that makes me want to take that plus money on OSP as well. When you look at OSP, yes, 41 years old, guy's got a career of college football and then jumps into MMA, Strikeforce, UFC's, fought John Jones, 5 rounds of John Jones, if you can believe that, because apparently that's the GOAT. Main thing is OSP's been around the block. He's got a lot of injuries. At 41 now, his career is definitely in the rearview mirror. Like, you're kind of getting near that point. But 205 is a god-awful division. Heavyweight's a god-awful division. That 41-year-old is not like that old. You're a bantamweight. It's over. You're a light heavyweight. You can still find some legs. And it seems like OSP found himself able to stay relevant with that win over Kenny and Jaku his last time out. The red flags being for him is that, yeah, here's a guy that went 5 rounds with John Jones once upon a time, but is now looking like he's got some suspect durability. He got knocked out by Tanner Boser. Not a great look considering Boser, just not a huge power puncher by any stretch. Then he gets knocked out by Felipe Lins in 49 seconds. So I think, most guys might be able to land that kill shot on OSP at this stage of his career, but he still does have something to offer. Comes in as an underdog against Ken Jaku. Same things we're talking about, red flags. Chin's is gone. His trying to move to 205. He's going to heavyweight, back down to 205, back to heavyweight. Mixed results. Took a grappling match against Andrade Petroski at 220 pounds. Still lost to a middleweight. It's not looking good. And then the Kennedy fight, he did exactly what makes guys effective at 205, which is just stay in the pocket and move forward and throw strikes. Use volume. I thought he looked good, man. You won a split decision, but keep in mind he landed 143 significant strikes plus a knockdown. So I thought he did win. He looked solid. He never stopped throwing. And for a 41-year-old who's a big man, to have cardio is very important. And that's a good thing about OSP is that he does have decent cardio. Again, he has fought 5 rounds in the past, but he just kind of paces himself. Sometimes it looks like he's absolutely tired. Then you step in to do something and he hits you with a check left hook. His win over Alonzo Menefield by knockout, it still holds out pretty good. His win over Mikey O, with the Von Flu, got killed in the first round, but does have that submission game, the Von Preux choke, I should call it. There's things you can like about his game, but we can only base these guys on their last fight, really, when you get to this stage. And in his last fight, he proved that he could still do it. He does have volume. He does have cardio. He still does have some power, and he's not afraid of mixing it up. Ryan Spann, meanwhile, he has a ton of red flags, too. The one thing that OSP has, which is that he's still willing to come forward and mix it up with you and can fight 3 rounds. That's the one thing Ryan Spann is lacking. This guy's got a decent submission game. This guy's got some decent striking. He's more athletic than OSP. He's quicker than him. He's more polished. He's more refined. Either he doesn't have a heart or he doesn't have any cardio. But one of those two things has been continuously his downfall. And I'm talking, you can go back to a lot of these fights where it's like just first round finish, first round finish, first round finish, first round finish. When he's extended, he loses. Even the Sam Alvey fight, he's a 6-1 favorite over Sam Alvey. Wins the first 2 rounds, third round, absolutely gassed because he never goes to the third round. Beats Sam Alvey on a split decision. Split decision, Paul. After that, first round finish against Johnny Walker, lost. First round win over Misha Cherkinov. First round loss to Anthony Smith. First round win over Jan Kudalaba. First round win over Dominic Reyes. First round loss, Nikita Krylov. That's where he's at. So then he gets Anthony Smith. That's a rematch. It's a rematch nobody asked for. Smith beat him in the first round the last time. They rematch. Smith wins the first round. Second round, Spann shows a little bit of life. He breaks his nose. Smith's face is busted. He's tired. Spann ends the round on top. It's 1-1 going into the third. Oh, dude, Spann, here's a great opportunity to show that you're not just a one-round guy. No. Third round, absolutely bust. He has no cardio. And then he takes Bogdan Guskov, his fight right after that. So if you're not going to fight Anthony Smith, you might as well fight his twin lookalike, who's a lot smaller than him. The first round, he takes down Bogdan. Yeah, why wouldn't you? The second round, he's tired, Paul. He's gassed. And as he's gassed, he's forced to stand. And as he's forced to stand, something partially hits him. And as something partially hits him, adversity sets. And as soon as adversity sets, he's at no point in his UFC career ever come back from a bad spot. He's never come back from having lost the last round and really needing to win the next one. He never comes back from that momentum swing in the other direction. And so to me, that's the key here for Ovince St. Preux, is that St. Preux just landed 143 significant strikes over Kennedy Nzechukwu and went a full 15 minutes. Kennedy is a big man. He's fast, if not as fast as Ryan Spann. He wants to kickbox. He's got better cardio. So OSP can do that type of game plan and win over Kennedy. He can do that exact same thing here. And all he's got to do is literally not get choked out or knocked out in the first round. Second round, Spann's going to be huffing and puffing. He's not going to like the forward pressure. He's not going to like the small cage because there's not a whole lot of space to work with. He will 100% try to take him down, but wrestling is taxing on you. And at some point in the second or the third, he's mouse wide open and he drops his hands. OSP is going to crush him over the right hand. So the line is everything, dude. If you flip this line and you tell me OSP is a minus 300, it's like, what are you talking about? Spann could do this, this, and this. But unfortunately, this is where the line is. And you have to look at the variables and what does OSP lose 7 out of 10 times? 8 out of 10 times? No! I think he wins 5 out of 10 times. It's a 50-50 fight. Maybe he wins 4 out of 10 times. Okay, fair. But for this line, the implied probability is off. And I think OSP could win this fight. I think he's going to win this fight. I know I got a lot of these big, heavy underdogs this week, so it's like who becomes the PRP pick. But yeah, I mean, OSP can absolutely knock him out. Chris Padilla could absolutely take advantage of a wrestling and grappling advantage. And who's my other underdog? Kind of decent other underdog. Oh, yeah, the Matt Schnell fight against Cody Durden. It's like, wait, so why would you bet minus 300 on a guy taking a fight on a week's notice who just got KO'd like 6 weeks ago? Oh, man, so many red flags. Anyways, it's not my job to talk about that stuff anymore. We're past that fight. All I'm saying is that if you're one of these guys that's a value play guy, you're looking to maybe just only bet 3 fights on the whole card. You're just looking for some of these plus money guys that have a very credible path of victory, can win, and are going to pay 2 or 3 to 1 on your money back. Yeah, these are the guys. I think they all got a shot. And I'll go with another one here for OSP.
Last thing I will say about the OSP fight is, I mean, guys with like similar kind of profiles of like first round blasters, guys that like take you out early, that he's been able to like withstand, you know, some of the early onslaught and then capitalize in round 2. Alonzo Menafield was able to get a second round TKO win against him. Michael Oleksiejczuk, he got a second round Von Flue choke. And Marcos Rogerio de Lima. We're going back many years. We're back to
No, but you're right. They're all gas bags.
All gas bags. Just like if OSP can hang in there tough, maybe he's a better, you know, if you want to be a little bit safer, maybe it's like a better bet live, away from, you know, to potentially get like beaten down, controlled. And if you can get out of the first round, maybe OSP's, you know, that's probably the safer way to do it, because if he gets his head knocked off, you don't lose any money. But OSP round 2 props might be muy picante this week. What are the prices out there? We're looking for them. I mean, yeah, we'll definitely waste some money on that. It's like 16 to 1. 16 to 1. It's still early in the week. That's like the books that like you'll probably get like 20 to 1 on an OSP round 2 prop. I'm only human, Cody. I'm only human. I'll definitely be sprinkling.
No,
a little
I
bit on
dude,
that.
I hear you. I think OSP by submission, if you can find a crazy number on that, I think this is a prime. Ryan Spann loves the guillotine choke. It's his favorite submission. So he grabs the guillotine, pulls on a gilly. Obviously, Preux 3 times. It's just passed over to side control, puts this massive former,
The OSP
University of Tennessee shoulder
the
into
Von
your
Preux.
neck.
The Von
Choke
Preux.
you out. Yeah. So because he's not subbed a guy in a long time, and maybe people are going to say on paper Ryan Spann has a grappling advantage, that you'll get crazy numbers on those types of props. ITD probably your best case.
Yeah.
Simply because
You could knock him out.
I think OSP could knock him, absolutely starch him, or I think he could submit him. He could also maybe win a decision, which also pays crazy. So any OSP winning straight up, he's already big plus money. If you can get a round 2 or a round 3 prop, an inside the distance prop, specifically a KO or a sub or even a decision, everything is just multiplied for sure. You get tons of value. This is a card with value. We just got to get the right ones.
You're speaking my language right now. I plan to, lose a whole bunch of money on OSP this week, and then watch, he'll get absolutely blasted in the first round. I'm like, yeah, I knew what I was buying into. The guy's kind of old and washed. All right, we got Isaac Dulgarian, minus 3,000 favorite, taking on Brendon Marotte. This didn't happen before, Cody. Like minus 300s. At this level of the game, like Habib literally never went off against any opponent. He took on Daryl Horcher. He was like minus 1,000. Like minus, like I know like mathematically, like the difference between minus 1,000 and minus 3,000 in terms of like percentage to win isn't all that much, but like it shows that's like the books just don't want to take one-sided action anymore. They are like forcing people's hands. And frankly, like, am I going to bet Marotte? Probably not. But Dulgarian's got some like red flags and things that like that I wouldn't feel too comfortable with betting this guy. I don't think his cardio is all that well. He's obviously an absolute destroyer early in fights. He's got good wrestling, and he's got a lot of skills, tenacity, power, everything like that. Don't get me wrong, I think he wins, but minus 300, I mean, there's absolutely no meat on the bone. Am I going to take the coward's way out? I'll pick him, I suppose, because I have no intention of betting Marotte. I think it is kind of like a get-right spot for Dulgarian, but yeah, it would never be me minus 3,000, Cody.
Yeah, Danny used to get mad at the matchmakers, and he'd be like, why is there a minus 400 favorite on the card? Like that, it's an indication that the fight on paper is not competitive. And we all know now minus 400 doesn't mean anything, but it's like you don't want to see these giant favorites. As a matchmaker, let me tell you personally, you don't want to see a guy as a 10-1 underdog because it's just poor matchmaking. He could pull off an upset. We saw a crazy one last night at the Contender Series, but as a rule, you should be matching those kind of fights. So, yeah, the fact that they're okay with putting a minus 3,000 favorite out there, there's a very clear and obvious plan of what they're trying to do. And that's build back Isaac Dulgarian, the Midwest chop up. This guy's legit. 6-1. He's still very young in his career. Not young age-wise, but young in his MMA career. But just wrestling for days, cardio for days. He pushes a crazy pace. He's been smashing everybody. And unfortunately, the UFC says, how good of a prospect are you? Let's give you the next uber prospect, Christian Rodriguez. Christian Rodriguez already knocked off Raul Rosas. So it's like they're just matching up the best kids against each other to seeing which one's going to prevail. He may have got a 10-8 round in that first round. He may have won the second round. In the other scenario, it should have been a draw, maybe even a win for Dulgarian. He tired. Christian Rodriguez fought an excellent fight, but all the same, it was a good learning experience. These are all the things he's capable of doing. Now, how can we take all that and spread it out and, tighten it up and just basically evolve the kid's game? Experience and ring time are going to be the biggest things for him in getting to that next level. And so going 3 rounds with Rodriguez, even though it was a tight split decision loss, it's going to make him a better guy. The UFC wants to build him back up, so they're going to give him the worst guy in the division, and the worst guy in the division happens to be Brendon Marotte. Now, how did Brendon Marotte get to the UFC? Because he's not good. He has a lackluster regional show career. He's not fighting the Contender Series. He is one of those New England cartel guys. So, I mean, he's buddies with Rob Font. He's buddies with Calvin Kattar, and he's buddies with, some of the guys from New England and the East Coast in the UFC, and that's it. They need a guy short notice to put his hand up to come and get beat up by Terrence McKinney. So Brendon Marotte's the guy. They bring Marotte in. Brendon Marotte goes off as a plus 400 underdog against Terrence McKinney. He's not expected to do anything. And for the record, he doesn't. He gets knocked down in 20 seconds. Knee up the middle, drops him. Right away, McKinney's on him, ground and pound TKO, done. He's done. 20 seconds. So what does the UFC do? Okay, thanks for stepping up. We're going to do you one. You can fight Muhammad Yahya. Now, this one's interesting. Muhammad Yahya is the worst guy in the division. He's from Abu Dhabi. They would love to put him on those cards in Abu Dhabi. The thing is, the dude got soundly out-wrestled and out-grappled by Trevor Peek. He's no good. He's absolutely no good. So they're sending Marotte there to build up Yahya, hopefully knowing that Marotte is the worst guy in the division. And Marotte pulls out. And when you're the worst guy and you pull out against the second worst guy, the rebooked fight is always against some absolute killer because you are of no use to them anymore. If you're reliable, you'll show up and take your beating. That's great. If you're going to be pulling out, we'll just throw you to whoever's available. You shouldn't be in the UFC, first of all. This is, it's my dream to tell my buddies I fight in the UFC and get paid 10 grand. Great. Then he's living out his dream. And that's the only thing he's getting from this. He's going to get slaughtered. You can't do anything on minus 3,000, sure. So you'll go Dulgarian by TKO. You'll take the under 1.5. You may even take a Dulgarian by first round TKO prop. But he is going to absolutely smash him into oblivion. The only thing that would cause Dulgarian to maybe hit that over 1.5, to maybe not get out of the first round, is if he was like, oh, dude, I wrestled too hard last time. I think I'm going to pace myself, which he's not going to do. He 10-8'd Rodriguez. You think Marotte's going to take a 10-8 round and keep going? No. He smashed Francis Marshall in one round. You think Marotte's going to take that kind of thrashing and get out of there? No way, dude. No way. I can't parlay a Dulgarian by first round knockout with all of my other stuff because you can't be you can't parlay those type of props. Just can't. Too much risk. But I mean, think about this thing logically. In what world does Brendon Marotte escape? Someone will say, well, he's not that chinny. You know, he had never been finished. Adley Edwards is a wrestler, completely dominated him on the ground. John Duma was a jiu-jitsu guy, completely dominated on the ground. He's not that chinny. Terrence McKinney took him out in 20 seconds. Wow, Terrence McKinney is just crazy explosive and knocks dudes out. Yeah, that is true. Dulgarian's going to take him down and get on top of him, pass guard, and smash him. Maybe takes his back, maybe chokes him out. Maybe just flattens him out and keeps punching him in the head until the ref has mercy. So I think Dulgarian just wrecks this guy. That's all I got to say about it.
Story checks out. All right, we got Andrade Lima taking on Felipe Dos Santos. Andrade Lima minus 180 favorite. Dos Santos can be had for plus 155 at the beginning of the show. I think it was in my brain. Because, like, frankly, I made a bet on Felipe Dos Santos. And then when I started doing a little bit more research, I'm like, taken down 9 times by Victor Altamirano. I'm like, what are you doing here? Fair is that, I mean, Andrade Lima isn't much of a wrestler in his own right. I think he's like maybe a better technician. I don't know if the volume's there for him in the striking department. And we both were on Severino and was looking pretty good as we got into into round 2 until he bit him and then lost his job. And then there's all the Hannibal Lecter memes and everything like that. But I don't know. I'm not big on this Lima guy. I think he kind of got to prominence because of the result of his first official UFC fight. A fight that looked like to me that he was starting to lose, and I was interested to see how that fight was going to play out. Obviously, Severino was able to mix in the grappling a little bit. He had 5 takedowns, I believe. But so obviously that changes the dynamic of the fight a little bit, but I don't know if this fight kind of plays out like a Manel Kape versus Felipe Dos Santos, and both of these guys spend time on the feet almost exclusively. I don't know. He had like 100, nearly, maybe a little bit more than 100. I don't have the exact stat in front of me right this second. He had 99 significant strikes against Manel Kape. That fight was, he's a big underdog there. And he held his own quite well. The takedown defense is obviously a big concern, but Lima isn't much of a wrestler in his own right. And at least he got taken down 9 times, but he kept getting back up. And he got taken down 6 out of 7 times in round 1. The takedown defense for Andrade Lima is obviously a massive problem, but at least he's got a get-up game. And then he had way less takedowns, to be had, less control time in rounds 2 and 3. Last time out against Altamirano. The stats would lead you to believe it was a bit of a, when you factor in control time, obviously it looked like a robbery against Altamirano, but I don't know. I'm gonna not focus too much on that matchup. Obviously, the takedown defense is a big time problem, but I think this kid's got a lot of skill, and at plus 155 in this division, actually, I got plus 165. Not that 10 points really changes all that much, but at this division, a guy that may have more volume, I don't know. I think it's a decent look. What's your take here?
Yeah, I actually got Santos as well. I'm not going to disagree with that. At 125, yeah, you're right. If you can get plus money at 125 already, you're off to a good start. But with Andre Lima, you keep bringing up Felipe Santos' questionable takedown defense. That shouldn't even be a problem here. Lima's a striker. He's straight up a striker. Likes his leg kicks, loves his power punches. I don't see him pursuing a wrestling heavy game plan. Even if he was to do that, that would be in Dos Santos' favor. Because as you mentioned, great get-up game, and it's going to cause Lima to work. That is going to be the key to this victory. When you look at Lima's record, there's been a bunch of these spots where Igor Talon, okay, LFA, this is last year, 2023. He misses weight at 127 pounds. So he missed weight by 1 pound. He is losing the fight. He's losing. His opponent gasses out and he wins. He didn't look all that good, and he missed weight. Okay, now we're going to look at this Rickson Zinadim fight. Third round, he's tired. Okay, not a big deal. Now we look at that Igor Severino fight. You had a Severino ticket. I had a Severino ticket. Did you not feel pretty decent about it till he bit the dude?
Until he bit him.
Like, what? Oh, man, you're winning. But there's a language barrier and loss in communication. They said there's a fight of the night bonus. He heard there's a bite of the night bonus, and he decided to go after it. So, like, damn, dude. But what I'm getting at is in his 2 prior LFA fights, missed weight in one of them, kind of looked like he was tiring out in both of them. Okay, Severino fight. Till he got bit. They were fighting a hell of a pace, dude. But it looked like he was getting tired. Then his last fight against Mitch Raposo, he misses weight. He comes in at 130. So this is twice in the last 4 fights that he's missed weight. One time at 127, one time at 130. In the Raposo fight, he wins. It shouldn't have been a split decision, dude. It should have been unanimous all day long. But it's just because of the leg kicks. He's leg kicking Raposo. Raposo's gimping around on it, and then that's it. Just leg kicks. So you go back to his contender series fight against Zinadim. He only lands 61 significant strikes in 15 minutes. Against Severino, it was a disqualification, but he's getting outstruck 35-30 up until that point, and he's slowing down. Against Raposo, 15 minutes. Raposo took the fight. He was the 3rd opponent change. So he's coming in on a week's notice, and you missed weight against him, even though he's on short notice. You're 5 pounds more. You land 51 significant strikes against a one-legged guy on short notice. So he knows he's got bad cardio, and he's not looking to exert himself. He's not looking to throw 100 significant strikes. He's not looking to land that type of volume. He's not looking to mix in wrestling long-term because he's a natural striker, and wrestling as a game plan is going to be extremely exhausting to a guy like that. So what do you have? You have a very slick, polished striker with a heavy leg kick game that doesn't throw a ton of volume. If he doesn't land this KO in the 1st or 2nd round, he's going to slow down. He's going to fatigue. To say that he is a minus 180 favorite, I mean, to me, it's just crazy. When I think about Dos Santos, I think all about the stuff you're saying, right? Cop, he lands 99. Cop is like a top 5 flyweight. Cop just arguably beat Makayev in the worst fight you've ever seen in your life.
With a broken foot.
And just like you can't hit this guy. He's quick. He's got 9 toes that are operating right now, and he's still fast as a cat. So to land that in your UFC debut is impressive. Now you get the Victor Altamirano fight. This is what people don't realize. They'll say, dude, he got taken down 9 times, and it was a questionable split decision and all these things. Here's the only thing I remember, and I had Dos Santos. Whoo, thank God we got that one. The fight was at Mexico City, Paul. It's like the highest elevation they've ever gone to. The first round, Altamirano takes him down. He loses. The 2nd round is super close, man. He landed the better shots than Altamirano, but he did get taken down. The 3rd round, Altamirano, who is Mexican, is completely gassed out. And that is the best round of the fight for Felipe Dos Santos is the 3rd round. He undeniably wins the 3rd round. And the reason he gets a split, loses the 1st, wins the 3rd. What happened in the 2nd? 2 guys give it to him. Beats a Mexican fighter in Mexico City, up at elevation, and his 3rd round is his best round. So I got a guy that I know can land 100 significant strikes. He did it against a top 5 flyweight. And I know he can fight a hard 15 minutes. And his takedown defense is not great, but his jiu-jitsu is obviously good enough to keep getting back up, making you work. And you're going to give me, and it's a flyweight fight. Oh shit, it's a flyweight fight. And you're going to give me him as the underdog? Oh, twist my arm some more. Why don't you? I'm in on Anderson Dos Santos as well. I like it, Paul.
Felipe dos Santos, not Anderson.
Yeah, sorry.
dos
Yeah,
Santos.
Anderson dos Santos got cut a long time ago. Felipe. Yeah, sorry. Felipe dos Santos. So many Brazilians with so many names, and all of the names are always the same.
Pretty similar, yeah.
But yeah, you're seeing the same thing I'm seeing, which is even if you do get taken down, make them work, come forward, use the volume, make this just a scrap. And if we can have this thing 1-1 going into the third, I would feel so good about it. If you can get a good live betting price, maybe he loses the first, maybe the second's very tight, very contentious, and you can get a very good number on it. And then the third round, he's going to shine, especially against an opponent like Felipe Lima, who I fully expect to tire. Last but not least, watch for weigh-ins. Felipe de Lima has missed weight in 2 of his last 4 fights, last time at 130. If he has a bad weight cut and his cardio is going to be even more compromised, take Dos Santos, baby.
I'm kind of surprised this week, Cody. We're on a lot of the same underdogs with a lot of the same ideas about this. It's we're either getting rich this week or it's going to be very, very painful. There was a bunch of things here that I was just like, Cody's gonna have like a good argument for like why I shouldn't bet this underdog, and you've been like, I agree, and I was just like, oh boy, it's gonna get expensive down in the Apex this week. Hopefully this is the week. It'd be a big week to spike, because there's a lot of plus money that I love. There's 4 more fights, and my interest starts depleting around here in this card. We got Gabriel Santos taking on Yizha. Gabriel Santos is a minus 260 favorite. Yizha can be had for plus 220. Am I pronouncing Yizha correct, Cody?
Yizha. It could be Yizha. I don't know. Like you said, interest depleting. We'll just rip through it with basic numbers here. Yizha's rocking a 59% takedown defense. He's fought on 2 seasons of Road to UFC. He got to the finals last time. This time, he eventually did get through. He's lived by the wrestling, die by the wrestling. You'll see a lot of these fights. He takes down Kiyomi Matsumisha 6 times, and he also got taken down 5 times. He took down Sungwon Kim twice. He got taken down once. He's very heavily reliant on the wrestling. Likes to wrestle. A lot of these times it's close. He's not landing a whole lot of damage. Is that he's constantly just wrestling his opponent's face off. He's going to be one of these serviceable guys that can make a striker look bad because he's just neutralizing the position. I just don't think I'm very high on him. Again, he gets a lot of takedowns, but he's giving up a bunch of them. Gabriel Santos is just getting a bad beat. UFC debut against Lerone Murphy. Lerone Murphy's legit. Lerone Murphy just beat Edson Barbosa in a headlining fight. He took him down 5 times, still landed almost 70 significant strikes in the UK, enemy territory against Lerone Murphy, a fan favorite, and he got a split decision loss out of it. So that's a debut. The kid's got a promising future. Then the David Onama fight. Interesting. He takes down David Onama twice, and he wins the first round on all the scorecards. The second round, Onama starts to unload on him with just these heavy shots, nasty uppercut. I don't think he gassed. I think he was hurt, and his body language as such was just deflated because he's hurt. And so David Onama, who's actually a quality opponent, takes him out. That's fine. I think his wrestling's pretty good. 5 takedowns on Lerone Murphy, 2 on David Onama. That means something to me. I think he takes Yizha down. I think he has a better chance of holding him down. I think in the Apex with a full fight camp and it's a 15-minute fight, I think you should be able to neutralize him for 2 of those 3 rounds. And if it doesn't end up being a wrestling match, which it's going to be, he's got far better striking as well. So he's got a plan B to fall back on. I don't love it simply because you got to get a guy in Yizha that's only going to wrestle and make it greasy. And you got a guy in Santos that I think is actually the better wrestler and better grappler, but maybe has a cardio issue. It makes it tough to get a lean, but Gabriel Santos, I take Gabriel Santos. It is what it is. You're just going to have to bite the bullet on it for me personally. I got other underdogs I like. Yizha ain't one of them.
I mean, Gabriel Santos came in as a 10-0 prospect. Everything's looking good. You watch the regional tape and you're like, this guy actually looks like he's going to cause a problem. Then he runs into... Lerone Murphy, he probably should have won that split decision, but it was over in England, so you got a little bit of, the Yorkshire pudding smeared on that one. And then Onama's an absolute gangster. So really 2 tough fights to get into the UFC. Sometimes they'll cut people after 2 fights, but obviously this is kind of like you got to prove it now for him. So I think he's a rightful favorite at minus 260 as well. We got Jaqueline Amorim taking on Vanessa Demopoulos. Amorim is a minus 300 favorite. Demopoulos can be had for plus 250. Demopoulos loves, probably losing relatively close fights, and then the judges like gifting her some of them decisions. She's probably pretty clearly giving up, jiu-jitsu skills here. Can she keep the fight standing? Make this close and competitive enough that she gets gifted another decision here, Cody. That's kind of where I'm wondering what to do with this fight.
Yeah, well, if you're asking me, I'm going to say exactly that. I think
we're taking another dog.
Yeah, I'm taking another dog here, Vanessa Demopoulos. Vanessa Demopoulos has proven at this point that just better, especially if she's plus money as the underdog. She can't lose. Either she wins the fight on her own merit and you win, or she loses the fight and her opponent's better than her and you still win. So in the last Kanako Marotte and Emily Ducote combined, you can go on like MMA decisions and they give you all the media members. Between those two fights, it's something like 30 media members have voted on it. Only 3 had those fights going to Vanessa Demopoulos. It's outrageous. Nobody thinks she wins, but she's a former stripper, and this judge is like, oh shit, she's going to tell my wife, what can I do to rectify this? 29-28, you? Deal. Done. Did you win the 29-28? No. But you don't want this girl going and telling your wife you went into some ratchet Tucson, Arizona nightclub. Oh my God, I got 2 kids and a dog. So Vanessa Demopoulos, you got some leverage on them. What I'm saying is if you can't knock her out, which former stripper can take a hell of a shot to the mouth, no one's knocking her out. And then, yeah, she's also a BJJ black belt. She's competed at some high-level tournaments, and she's got some decent wins. So submitting her is a massive problem as well. Basically, finishing her in a nutshell, not going to happen. Never been finished. So now you need to put the pace on her and outwork her. And it's hard to do that because she got these little T-Rex arms, but she just swings, boy. She got solid cardio. She can fight 15 minutes. Her wrestling's not very good, but she's so hard-nosed, like a little bull terrier, constantly coming forward on you. You can't shake her. I'm going to admit, I scored her last 2 fights against her, but it's not like I'm sitting at home thinking like, oh, this is easy. It's like she's making them work, dude. And Emily Ducote is legit. Former Invicta champ, college wrestler, solid technical boxing. Very close fight. I thought Ducote won. But no, Vanessa Demopoulos is constantly moving forward, making her work, having some good rounds, having some good moments. Her fight with Marotte, the entire time she's off her back, she's constantly throwing up volume. And there's the other thing. You look at her takedown defense, it's listed at 30%. It's like, oof, that's bad. But really, it's just Kanako Marotte. Marotte took her down 5 times on 6 attempts. Outside of that, who's taking her down? Corey McKenna on a Contender Series episode and JJ Aldrich. JJ Aldrich, 1 takedown, didn't do anything with it. JJ Aldrich fights at 125. Bigger than Vanessa, whatever. Outside of that, it's like, I don't think her takedown defense is as bad as the numbers would suggest. Her Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt is credible. She has pace for days. Arguably, she's a better wrestler than Jaqueline Amorim. She's a better striker than Amorim. She's got better cardio than Amorim. She's going to throw more volume than Amorim. She constantly moves forward. And last but not least, when she fights in the apex, they love screwing her opponents. So, man, honestly, I think there's a lot to go here. Now you say, okay, let's just stop talking Vanessa Demopoulos, automatic spam win, ha ha ha. Tell me about Jaqueline Amorim. There's not a whole lot to like there, to be honest. Her striking is not very good. Her wrestling is not very good. She's got good jiu-jitsu. Her UFC debut against Sam Hughes, she got Sam Hughes down twice, couldn't hold her down, ended up gassing out and got outstruck 45-12 against Sam Hughes. We'll give her a pass because it's a UFC debut, but losing to Sam Hughes like that, getting smoked the last 2 rounds, 12 significant strikes, you got takedowns and couldn't do anything with it. It's troublesome. Then she gets Montserrat Ruiz. Okay, Montserrat Ruiz is not any good. We know that. She gets the takedown on Ruiz. She dominates. It still takes her to the 3rd round and gets a finish. I don't really rate that win all that high. And then her fight with Corey McKenna, pretty sweet. Corey McKenna gets the takedown, and Jaqueline Amorim throws up the arm. So effectively, her takedown accuracy is 23%. She's taking down 2 opponents, being Sam Hughes, and she lost, and Montserrat Ruiz once, where she couldn't get a whole lot done with it. And then got taken down by McKenna and got the armbar. So women's MMA armbar from guard, I get it. Against Vanessa Demopoulos, armbar from guard, that's not going to happen, right? If you're getting taken, if you just think, I'm going to play guard off my back, it's not going to happen, dog. It's not going to happen. You're not armbarring her off your back. So you need to take her down. Although I'm thinking Vanessa's wrestling could be good enough to take Amorim down. If that happens and you've got Vanessa on top, Vanessa wins, right? If the fight does not hit the ground and it's just a striking battle, Vanessa wins. The only situation she loses is she gets taken down by Jaqueline Amorim constantly, all 3 rounds. Amorim sets up shop on top. Amorim avoids the submission attempts. Amorim ground and pounds her, makes it look good. In that scenario, Vanessa Demopoulos still wins. Because I don't know why Paul Shaughnessy, but the judges are in love with her. Kind of like that movie with Richard Gere, Pretty Woman. I don't know what's going on, but obviously there's something going on that I don't know about. So sign me up for Vanessa Demopoulos.
It's a great breakdown. There's some lines in there that you may, when you put it up onto YouTube, you may want to, or when you put it up onto to Fight Network, you may want to cut it out. The YouTube people,
only
the people on YouTube
the first
get
hour and
all
10
of
minutes,
it.
Paul.
Oh,
only hour and 10 minutes. Yeah, so anything after that.
That's why that spicy
I could drop
breakdown
F-bombs.
was there. The line about shots to the mouth, I mean, had me cackling.
What was that? Was that over the edge? I felt like that was a witty enough line, no?
It was very witty, but we live in 2024. People are
that's
getting canceled left, right, and center. Is what it is.
The best thing is
try to avoid the people who may potentially cancel me these days.
Cancel culture people don't tend to watch our show or MMA programming in general.
Our fan base, the people who are getting to, fight 11 of 13 on UFC Vegas 97 probably are more likely to be canceled than to be the people doing the canceling. But, I guess we'll find out. All right, we got Andrade Petroski taking on Dylan Budka, minus 270 for Petroski. Budka can be had for plus 230. My quick thoughts on this is usually, we talk about Petroski, we talk about him gassing out. And he's got solid grappling. He's been able to hold on to that, even though he's looked super, super tired. He's been able to kind of muscle through it in round 3 in a few fights, so on and so forth. Luckily for him in this matchup, we're looking at Dylan Budka, who against Cesar Almeida 100% tried to play that grapple game, tried to, hold down a guy who, frankly, Almeida went into his next fight and against Kopylov and was just constantly getting taken down over and over, controlled. So the fact that Budka wasn't able to do that against that level of opponent with that type of deficiency, I think it negates a lot of what Andre struggles with in this game. Do I feel great about laying minus 270 on Andre Petroski? No, probably pretty much never. But this is kind of a perfect matchup for him, in my opinion, to get back on track. So Petroski is the pick for me. What about you?
Yeah, I got to go Petroski as well. And that's a bit of a rarity for me. It's not like I bet against Petroski every time. He's not my kind of guy. A guy that I do believe slows down. His wrestling and his jiu-jitsu is his go-to. But again, at times he's had bad opponents down and hasn't been able to do much with it. He's low volume on his feet. He's jacked up. He's an American guy with a hammer and a sickle tattoo on him, and that tells you everything you need to know about his ring IQ. He's not the kind of guy that I really all that much like. The Jacob Malkoon fight, he knocks himself out with a blast double leg. You can't really trust him. There's just things I don't like. It's that this matchup with Budka actually looks quite good. I mean, we know Petroski's a guy, solid college wrestler at a Kutztown University, BJJ black belt. Budka, quite literally the only thing he has going for him is he wrestled at a Notre Dame college in Ohio. That's it. His striking's not very good. His cardio's iffy, and he can wrestle. Petroski's cardio is iffy, but proven. I think it's a little bit better than Budka's. His striking is better than Budka's. His wrestling is as good, and his jiu-jitsu is better. So I honestly do feel like similar to the Josh Frem fight. Josh Frem had wrestled at a Slippery Rock University. He had some cleats wrestling. He had some on paper better striking and better cardio than Andre Petroski. Petroski finds ways to neutralize his opponents. He finds ways that nobody's landing anything, but he's in a favorable position. He can get takedowns when he wants them. He's great. Got a great series with the front headlock. He likes to switch to a guillotine, switch to a Darce choke. A lot of it's just snapping down his opponent, breaking their base down, constantly putting some pressure on them. So I like Petroski in an entertaining way, some fun fights. I just don't know that he's a guy that I'd be looking to trust at all. Budka, meanwhile, I never really liked him. He comes out of a gym in Ohio called Demolition Fight Team. And it's no disrespect to them. They got 30 guys, 30, 40 guys that fight out of the gym. None of them are good. Budka is the number one guy. In fact, nobody in that gym's got 10 pro wins. The number 2 ranked guy in that gym, 7-10. And then a pile of young kids and amateurs. That's his gym. And they're willing to step up. You see them fill a lot of fights across the United States. Short notice guys that are coming to lose. But like, that's where he's training. I don't think he's getting marginally all that better. You watch him on LFA. He fights for the title against this Azmat Bakov. Ends up losing a split decision. A nice win over Wes Schultz. Can't say he would do that again if they rematched. But this Chad Hanekom fight in the Contender Series. How do you get a contract off that? How does Torrance Finney not get a contract in the UFC? How does that Medina guy that loses, that Colombian fool, how do these guys get signed when a real prospect like Finney doesn't? Well, that's to me with Budka. Budka fought Chad Hanekom. It's a bad fight, man. He takes Hanekom down and he holds him down. That's it. He lands 2 takedowns and 22 significant strikes. Anyways, he just grounds him. That's it. Holds him down. That's fair. Very next fight against Cesar Almeida, he tries to do the same thing. He had 3 takedowns and 1 strike landed. 1 strike landed through almost round and a half, right? It was 7 minutes and 13 seconds into the fight. He had landed 1 punch. 3 takedowns on a Brazilian kickboxer. Great. That's it. He's not doing anything with it. He's not trying to pass. He's not trying to submit you. He's not trying to ground and pound you. He's just trying to take you down. It's a style that people don't enjoy watching. I enjoy watching if you're at the highest level. If you're a Usman or a George St. Pierre or a Khabib Nurmagomedov, great. Those guys are taking you down and dominating you. These guys are taking you down and holding you. So why Dana would sign him off the Contender Series so he could try to hold down a guy, I don't know. But interesting, they say, okay, Cesar Almeida is a kickboxer with 0 wrestling. So let's give him a wrestler with 0 kickboxing, and it's Budka. And what happens? Second round, he puts his head up against the cage, 2 short elbows, he folds like a cheap tent. Okay, fair. Against Petroski, if he can't just rely on his wrestling the entire fight, he's going to get knocked out. If he's forced to stand, he'll get outworked or get knocked out. If the fight does hit the ground, Petroski's on top, world of shit. If he's able to take down Petroski and neutralize him, it makes it interesting. But it's not like Petroski's a fish out of water in a straight-up wrestling match. And if this thing gets to a second or gets to a third, I've seen Petroski huffing and puffing with his hands on his side and then knock a fool out or submit a guy. I've seen him do it. Crap opponents like Zoo or Michael Gilmore, sure, but at least he's pulled through in the 3rd round if need be. Whereas I can't say the same thing against Dylan Budka. He's fought 5 rounds for LFA. That's a feather in his cap. Besides that, he seems like a 24-year-old kid who's not left the confines of a small gym. He has not made improvements to his overall game. He's very vocal on Twitter about calling people out, and almost every guy he calls out would smash him senseless. So I'm hoping that Petroski gets the job done here. But again, 2 wrestlers with lackluster cardio, you're asking for it. It's so early on the card. You can rebuild. I don't want to rebuild if I don't have to. So I will pay Petroski, but I got to tamper my expectations a little bit.
All right. Finally, we got Nathan Fletcher taking on Zigimantas Ramaska. Fletcher, -140 favorite. Ramaska can be had for +120. This fight was supposed to be on the card, 2 weeks ago? Fletcher, I believe, had some sort of ailment that he had to pull out of this fight. They rebook it for 2 weeks later. Ramaska was like +140 when I had bet him before. Obviously, that's been voided now. I feel like it would be, considering Fletcher was the one who had to pull out on fight day. I'm sure it was nothing too serious if they're flipping it, turning it back around in one day, but still kind of like a bit strange. They've obviously shortened the price a little bit here, but I'm not going to get off of Ramaska, at least as my pick here. What about you?
Yeah, I kind of am thinking I am going to flip ship.
How come?
And this is the crazy thing. We somewhat broke down these fights. Nah, not this one in particular, but 2 weeks ago when it was the tough finale, we didn't have any info. Randomly took the wrestler guy because you knew he could wrestle in college. And that's all it took, Paul. And then the other one, that Marotte Santos, he beat the number 1 guy. So therefore he is the number 1 guy. And he looked awesome. There was little effort or thought process put into them. And both guys exceedingly did awesome and were both well priced. So when I had last time out, I had Ramaska on the same thing. I didn't think about it very much. I just take Ramaska +140. I like it. Now I got rebooked and I actually looked at it. Because I looked at it, I'm overthinking it. And because I'm overthinking it, I'm flipping to Nate Fletcher. When I look at Ramaska is like, he's a badass striker, dude. He likes to throw volume. He likes to stay active. He's just throwing crazy techniques, big kicks. I mean, Lithuania as a country, they do produce some good kickboxers, some good strikers, and he has that. Where they do lack is the wrestling and the grappling. Ramaska is exactly that. You look at his losses are generally when he's taken down, and that guy's got better jiu-jitsu, better wrestling than him, time and time again. When he stands with these guys, that are salty 10-10 records, yeah, he can knock him out. He gets Berzad Usmanov, sorry, on the Ultimate Fighter. He ends up winning a third round majority decision. Good fight, solid fight. Usmanov was moving up a weight class to come on the show. So he's a small guy. As such, he wasn't really able to use his wrestling all that much. It's a close fight, but he wasn't able to get it going. Then Ramoska had taken enough injuries in that fight that they wouldn't medically clear him to fight another fight in the house. So that's why his run ended. And they're giving him Nate Fletcher. He didn't really lose on the show, so we'll bring it back. And Nate Fletcher, they like. He lost on the show legitimately, but they like. The guy he lost to ended up making it to the finals, that Keen Offley, who got smoked, but all the same, at least he lost to a finalist. But beyond that, they like this kid because he's Patty Houlihan's buddy. Like, right in with them, Patty the Baddie. These guys, they're grapple-heavy fighters. This kid's a good grappler. You look at his fight with Dominic Wooding, it's his only pro loss, and he's winning the first 2 rounds. He's taking him down, he's controlling him. The third round, he gasses. He gasses, and he ends up getting booted lopside the head by Dominic Wooding, who's very fast, explosive, high-powered striker. But you can see where he's at his best, but yet young kid, needs cardio, needs to be worked on. Since then, he's come back with a pair of wins over 8-1 opponents, gone to the decision one of them, shows his grappling with a triangle choke, fights Keenan Offley, unfortunately doesn't get the better end of it, but I do feel like him at his best is he's a grappler, just like Patty. He's going to try to force his hand, force him up against the cage, get him to the ground, and that's where he should shine at his best. Ramoska is a better kickboxer. This thing stays a kickboxing match. Ramoska edges him out. If you can get plus money on Ramoska, not a terrible look. If you can get plus money on Ramoska and it's going to stay standing, even better. I just feel like Fletcher probably in the last 3 years since the Wooding fight did enough to shore up his cardio, has that wrestling advantage, has that grabbing advantage, probably just takes Ramoska down and neutralizes him. The one little tiny thing is like, yeah, dude, he pulled out of a fight with sickness 2 weeks ago. So now they rebook it, and I'm sure he's healthier now and all that, but like, what was the sickness? And furthermore, I need you to fight a strong 15 minutes. I can't have you have a good first round, a good round and a half, almost submit him, and then fall apart. And so maybe if cardio was a question mark to begin with, and you know that he's just coming off the sickness, all of that makes it like a little bit hesitancy to jump behind Fletcher as well. So on other episodes, I may just call it a dog or pass and take Ramoska. On this episode, I got a lot of dogs. I'm not forcing them. They're dogs that I like. When I look at this fight, I'm not forcing an underdog. I got to take the guy that I like. Based on the style clash, I got a high output striker versus a solid grappler. The grappler usually wins those fights. If he's effective, I'm hoping he is. So, yeah, I don't know. Sign me up for Nate Fletcher in a fun fight, right? A curtain jerk fight. And if my guy was to lose, I wouldn't have to rebuild because I'm not going to have that much invested in.
If the PRP hits this week, Cody, we're not even buying like property. We're buying like a small nation. The books better be damn scared. It's going to be a lot of, landmines and everything like that, but there's so much plus money. It's going to be absolutely epic. So I hope you hit the PRP this week because we'll be rich. Hit him with it.
Well, I'll hit them with it right now. We're going to go with Gilbert Burns. And just for the record, it's a 13-fight card, okay? If you've got 12 in a row and it's coming down to Gilbert, I can't say it because I put the end on the fight and everything. If it comes down to the last fight and you're sitting with a Gilbert Burns, you can just hedge, man. But now we're going to take Gilbert Burns. We're going to take Natalia Silva. We're going to take Kyle Nelson as dog number 2. We are going to take Trevor Peak. We're going to take Chris Padilla. Ovince St. Preux. We got 4 dogs now. Alzig Dulgarian. Felipe dos Santos, dog number 5. Gabriel Santos. Vanessa Demopoulos, dog number 6. Andre Petroski. And Nate Fletcher. And then Bet Online. Oh, yeah, maybe they'll let you parlay right now. Sorry, I had it over on Bodog because Bet Online. Maybe they're just doing it to me, or you can write in the comment section if they're doing it to you, but like they're not letting you parlay things until like day of now. I just want to see what the exact odds are.
I mean, I just clicked on Petroski Amorim. Not that I want to do that, but those were parlayable.
It's a UFC. It's a UFC, so that would make sense. I clicked on Bodog just to avoid it, but Bodog doesn't have the Matt Schnell fight listed. I just want to see what the PRP would pay this week because it'll be crazy. UFC Vegas
Fletcher,
90.
Petroski, Demopoulos, Santos, Dos Santos, Dulgarian, OSP, Padilla, Peak, Schnell.
Oh man, yeah.
Kyle Nelson.
It's gonna be ridiculous.
Did you take Natalia? You took
Silva.
Natalia Silva, okay. And then Gilbert.
Yeah, and Gilbert Burns on a parlay. It's paying you plus 467,732. So a $100 parlay would pay you $467,000, but Bet Online caps you at like 220 or 240. Let me see what the exact cap is on for you. 70. No, they wouldn't let you put 75 on that bet.
Well, that's only a 12-team parlay because I don't think it's actually more, Cody, because that's only a 12. Because because
They're not putting Schnell, are they?
The Schnell fight is too new for them to add that.
Oh man, and the Schnell's an underdog. Okay, yeah. I mean, the bottom line is we got some good news and some bad. The good news is if the parlay hits this week, life changing would be an understatement. The bad news is if the parlay hits this week, this is actually the final show for Paul and Sean. No, the final show forever. Let's be real. It'd be the final show forever, Paul. So part of me hopes it doesn't hit. The other part of me hopes maybe this is the last show ever.
But you have to factor in that you're going to be hedging for like you're going to be like putting your house. You're going to be calling up Dave Mason and being like, "Hey man, I've got a house just outside of Toronto here. Can you put that on who's the main? Can you put that on Sean Brady?" It'll be like absolutely not. But yeah, no. I mean, it feels like there's lots of money to be made here this week. But obviously, I mean, a lot of these fights, we like them because they're plus 250, and they should probably be like 60-40 in terms of like, win probability and stuff. Like, that's how we're kind of seeing it. Maybe we're dead wrong. Maybe we're dead right. Hopefully we get rich. But that is it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. For producer Jared and Cody Safdick, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.
Oh, oh, oh.